Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us here for This Week in Agribusiness. You may notice the set looks a little different today. That's because I am on the grounds of the Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa. What an event this year. We're going to kick off today's show by talking with Matt Youngman. He's the National Events Director at Farm Progress, one of the team that puts on this event each year. Matt, how are you feeling? It was a success, wasn't it?
It was a great success. You mentioned the team. We have an amazing team here. You know, the whole community here in Boone County, Iowa gets behind the show and puts together a wonderful event. It just turned out great.
And this year, the weather in Boone County brought some big crop yields to the field demos, I heard. What did you hear from the folks running the combines? Yeah,
so they're all brand new combines, none of them calibrated, but what we're hearing is 200 to 225 at 25% moisture. So, you know, growing 82-day corn in central Iowa, that's pretty darn impressive. We're very satisfied with it, and the exhibitors seemed real happy. Everybody put on a good show.
I mean, 225 bushel corn, that's a good test of any machine running through that kind of thick corn crop.
That's exactly right, yeah.
What else did you all have out there at the harvest demos this year?
Yeah, so we have the two kind of standard groupings of demonstrations. We have harvesting, which is combines, corn heads, auger carts, all the grain handling equipment. And then in the afternoon, we re-rack the crowd and run the tillage tools. You know, we had about 15 combines run and then about 40 tillage tools. And that's everything from deep rippers, subsoilers, to vertical till and strip till.
Let me ask you a question. After you run all these tillage types across this ground, what do you do to get the ground ready for next year?
Yeah, so that's the promise we have to make to the host farmers, give them something they can plant into. So we'll take a subsoiler or disc ripper and even everything up and get it ready for next year's crop. And yeah, that's kind of good decompression time after the show, is to get in a nice big four-wheel drive and do some recreational tillage.
That's right, a little diesel therapy.
Yes, exactly.
Matt, one of the things out there this year that was fascinating to me was the autonomy. Just the sheer number of autonomous vehicles and equipment. Can you talk a little bit about what all was there?
Yeah, so you know, we had the brand new offering from PTx Trimble, and that was kind of the highlight of that portion of the show. Everybody's now kind of got their solution. All the major OEMs are coming with their solutions for autonomy, all of them a little bit different. So you know, with their merger this year, they've kind of taken the front part of the stage in terms of autonomy, and they did a really good job, had put on a good show out there.
One of the things that I heard a lot of people talking about, and I thought was really cool to see on site, was the air tractor. Yeah. Matt, you have a crop duster here on the grounds, and as I recall, we do not have an airstrip here at the Farm Progress Showgrounds. How did that work?
We do not have an airstrip, but it was kind of cool to bring it in. We, you know, that was built at the factory in Texas. Those big yellow crop dusters that you see, most of them are air tractor brand, and they're built in Texas. It flew to Oklahoma, refueled, flew here and landed out in the north parking lot, and then we opened up the fence, pulled it into its exhibit space, patched up the fence, and there it sits for about 3 weeks until we're able to clear everything back out. And it's actually going to leave here, go back to the factory, get retrofitted, and it's going to go to South Africa and be a fire suppression airplane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, truly global connections here at the Farm Progress Show. Matt, another thing that I know you were excited about this year was the expansion of the VIT tent. Can you talk a little bit about what the VIT is for folks who maybe haven't been to the show and what you did this year?
So the Varied Industries tent, that's where the 10x10 booths are, and that's where, for the most part, the new companies come in. Nobody dips their toe in with a giant outdoor lot. You dip your toe in by getting a 10x10 booth, and hopefully they will grow from there. But the new 4 inches of soybean asphalt on there created a really clean, dry, dust-free environment, really professional, you know, trade show indoor environment type exhibits in there. So it turned out just wonderful.
And with soybean asphalt, we're supporting Iowa farmers and keeping our feet dry.
Great partnership from Iowa Soybean to help us get that accomplished.
Now, Matt, it's hard to believe you're going to decompress from the Farm Progress Show. You're looking ahead to Husker Harvest Days. Give us the details. When is that?
Husker Harvest Days, September 10th, 11th, and 12th, just west of Grand Island. We're looking forward to that show. A lot more beef influence at that event, and you know, there's no show that I'm aware of that has more going on with all of the different demonstrations, everything we do here at Farm Progress, plus alfalfa and all the livestock activities.
Well, there will be a lot to see in Grand Island, Matt. Looking forward to that September 10th, 11th, and 12th. Thanks for talking with us today.
You bet. Thank you.
Save instantly when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag tires during the Firestone Fall into Savings promotion, now until October 31st. Visit firestoneag.com or contact your local certified ag dealer. It's time to talk markets. Now, joining us for this segment is Derek Hermish. He's a risk manager at Pinion. And Derek, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
You bet. Looking forward to it, Mike.
It has been a volatile week in the commodity markets. We've seen this volatility come back to the trade. Both corn and soybeans are moving a lot. We saw a lot of action Monday of this week. Derek, what did that market action tell you as a risk manager?
So the unfortunate thing that it told me as we came into the week, this was your last week for September, the old crop. As we went into first notice day being Friday. So if you were long, the board or had a basis contract, you had to roll or just get out. And unfortunately, if you want to have some bullish optimism, you wanted to see that market not widen out. You wanted to see not more carry, less carry. That's not what we saw on Monday, and the rest of the week, so. But that sends a message, the optimism hasn't taken over just yet. But when we're looking at that in the market, what that carry tells us is the most important thing. And as it develops between December to March, does it catch where that September to December got? That's where you get your message as far as maybe when we will find a bottom here.
Okay. Looking out for the producers you work with, we've seen a lot of volatility, again, on basis across the country. Is this an opportunity still ahead of harvest to lock in basis for some growers, or has that maybe passed us by this late in the season?
I'm maybe a little contradictory on this. I mean, there may still be a little opportunity because it is, we're all expecting such a big crop and we're harvesting 2 crops at once when we're talking about getting out of the bin and what's out in the field. But with the futures price as bad as it is, as much as it sank, and margins for everybody that uses corn are great. We are competitive on the world exports. Ethanol has great margins, and cattle have good margins. It's always hard to make money in the cattle, but it's not the same as what it was the last couple of years. They're not worried about the corn side of it. So I don't know that the only way basis gets worse is if truly all the elevators plug up and they say no more, but they want it right now.
Okay. All right, we love to see that. Our end users are making money. Is that giving you some optimism as you look ahead maybe to 2025 about where corn prices could go?
It does, in a way. When we're talking about the carry, what you got to be careful is, your current December futures, are between 380 and 390. And as you look out to next year, it's still around 430. So you've already got, 50 cents built in there. How bullish do you get about 2025? But in the sense that the stuff that I look at, Scott Irwin with the University of Illinois did a study here recently where our break-evens below cash rent in Illinois, which that's, its own thing, but we're below break-evens more so than we've been for the last 20 years. Oof. And the market doesn't care about your break-even, but in general, it does, and that will matter, and I think you could talk about less acres and stuff for next year if that's the way things are going to run.
All right. Derek, you mentioned that capitulation, that movement to the upside, finding optimism. The wheat market has been looking for something to be optimistic about for 4 months. Is it coming? Are we nearing a bottom potentially in wheat?
The wheat market, out of the big 3 grain commodities, I actually think does have the most optimism. Other than you can get really bearish or potentially bullish soybeans based on South America weather. But the wheat market has the least amount of carry in it. There were some problems. France had one of their worst wheat crops ever. The Ukraine-Russia stuff that we don't talk about when it comes to ag markets anymore still matters in the grand scheme of things. And I think there is a lot of things there to talk about in the wheat market.
Lots to watch as this goes forward. We'll be back with more market conversation with Derek Hermish, risk manager at Pinion. Save instantly when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag tires during the Firestone Fall into Savings promotion now until October 31st. Visit firestoneag.com or contact your local certified ag dealer. And we're back talking markets with Derek Hermish. He's a risk manager at Pinion. Derek, thanks for taking the time to talk with us this week.
Yeah, you bet, Mike.
You mentioned soybeans before we went to the break. They've got the potential for the best bullish story or the most bearish story. Let's dig into that. Soybeans have been in a downtrend. Eric, what are the bearish factors you're watching here in the near term?
So the bearish factors are and when I say they have most bearish, most bullish, the bullish optimism about the only place I can find it on soybeans is that South America produces more beans and it matters more. And we will be having another weather cycle starting, as early as September, but really maybe not till November through January. And we don't get that really with corn and wheat. There isn't going to be a weather cycle coming. So it's really South America weather. But on the bearish side, the unfortunate part, we had the Pro Farmer Tour last week. Best bean yields, we're looking at in history, potentially. We're finishing off August a little hot, and Iowa had a Had a pretty dry August, but cooler temperatures. But that combined with, we built all this up into what the renewable diesel story, could be. And we've had a lot of crush plant expansion that, is really eating up some demand, but we have lost so much market share to China from South America. And it's a story that everybody knows. And then, of course, we have the situations where even with that, no matter what happened with tariff wars and the trade war, China was probably backing away from us anyway, but they have accelerated that backing away from us in the last 3 to 4 years. And that's a big part of it. You are banking on now what South America does more so than what the U.S. does. Our crush plant story has gotten a lot of that demand back, but it's not been fast enough, and it's a bleak situation right now without the South America weather story.
Are you encouraging any of your producers to price 25 crop this far in advance, given the bearish factors? I think it's definitely, I would really like to. I have not yet, because I'm just like any good farmer. I would like to see a little bit of an opportunity of a rally back. And I do think seasonally, I'm telling you all the bearish factors, and it did get bearish here recently. But we usually have some kind of South America weather adversity, just like we do here, which we didn't get a lot this year. And hopefully pick something out between October and January. And yes, that's a big key in all these crops, corn and beans. You're going to be focused on this year's crop because farmers are undersold by and large. But you need to get back started and get back on that regular horse that you ride through the carry in the bearish environments, which is what commodities typically are outside the last couple of years. Makes sense.
And look at next year, not just this year. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Eric, before we let you go, we got a few seconds. You're at Kansan. You keep track of this cattle market. Is there more upside ahead for the cattle grower?
There's whatever upside you want to have, Mike. We were talking here. I always have opinions on whether it be the grain or the livestock market. I think right now it does not pay to have an opinion in the cattle market. I just think you should be more aggressively hedging. We see how high prices are. We see the volatility. There are ways to do it. And when I say hedging, you can still use futures. You can use, but there's LRP. Everybody's aware of it now. There's puts. There's all kinds of stuff. Be more aggressive than what you have been, and don't let this be a year that screws you up, when it should still be a year that looks pretty good.
That makes sense. Capture some of this advantage, take some of that risk off the table, manage successfully. Derek Hermish, Pinion Risk Manager, thanks so much for filling us in on your take on the markets this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead.
Yes, indeed, Greg Solier nailed the weather here at the Farm Progress Show this week. He has been dead on so far. We appreciate that. Now we're going to get his perspective on the rest of the country. Greg, it's been dry in the Pacific Northwest. Any relief in sight?
Yeah, we had kind of a change to a little more typical autumn setup out there. Onto the weather maps and charts, and you'll see what we're talking about. Kind of a quick onshore flow, nothing too impressive from the divide back westward through the Pacific coast, and it's the north end of the monsoon moisture setup out there into the northern and central Rockies. We do get a little almost a clipper system or two out of Big Sky country and a push to the south and east. It'll be there where we've had recent shower activity, and it's back into play through the middle part of the week. And temperatures pretty much seasonal. Another shot of some cool air for the Canadian prairie. The heat will build back into the Willamette Valley, Rogue River Basin, so it's back and forth. Same with the fire situation. Otherwise, pretty much par for the course. Late summertime weather into the northwestern reaches of the country. Same with the southwest, although the tropical Pacific has been very busy. No less than 3 or 4 storms, actually tropical and Hurricane Hone came within about 90 miles of the Big Island last week with wind and rain, maybe some drought relief out there. But as it applies to the southwestern reaches of the country, just hot. A couple of monsoon thunderstorms. The temperatures are down out of sections of Nebraska, Kansas on southward through Oklahoma from the heat wave of last week, and even more of that expected with another push of cooler, drier air, far more comfortable weather, but not much in the way of any organized moisture, at least till through the late part of the week into the plains. The heat builds back into the valleys of California, a couple of thunderstorms, desert southwest. So, Mike, it continues on little change as it ought to be for summertime in the western states.
As you look at the central part of the United States, Greg, any risk of severe weather here in this early part of September?
Well, we saw some of that in parts of the plains and not too far outside of the Farm Progress Show as well, but the heat was broken, and here it is on the early to midweek weather maps and charts. Cooler, drier Canadian air. No, this is not a pattern shift to autumn. There's still lots of heat units, growing degree days. Crop maturity will move along quickly, and the growing degree day action. But for now, a nice respite from the heat and humidity and some of that 115, 120 degree heat index values that we saw in the western Corn Belt locales. So comfortable for much of the Corn Belt. Little change for the end part of the week. A couple of showers and thunderstorms out of Big Sky southward in through Nebraska and Kansas. Maybe a sprinkle downwind of the Great Lakes region, and that is it. But there will be more heat later on in the month for the Corn Belt and points to the west and south. Still very hot through Mexico. Temperatures are down. A cooler, drier air mass, Mike, for Kansas, areas of Missouri. A couple of showers into the Ozarks, and showers and thunderstorms will continue onto the southern plains in the Gulf Coast areas. We did not put a tropical system in, but wouldn't be surprised that I'm made to look like a liar at some point by Mother Nature later in the week. The pressures are low and anything may happen. It is that volatile in the Gulf of Mexico, but cooler for the central plains. A couple of thunderstorms in through Texas and the southwestern reaches of the country. Little change there.
Well, let's take a look at the East Coast. Greg, growers in Ohio would love to see a drink. Folks in Virginia would love to see a drink. Any chance of that?
Nope. We've had only tropical systems really, Mike, this summertime season. But here we go. It's a push of cooler, drier air. Not much in the way of any organized moisture, but that's a good thing for the northeast of New England. Not a good thing, as you pointed out, down towards the nation's capital and point southward from there. They are blowtorched and turning crops over in through Ohio. 75% short in the topsoil moisture department there, and southward from there, including some drier areas beginning to evolve in through Indiana and Illinois. Other than a couple of showers and thunderstorms, western Corn Belt. Middle part of the week is comfortable. Late part of the week is comfortable with a hint of autumn, maybe a little frost into parts of upper Michigan as you expect for the time of year. A couple of showers downwind of the Great Lakes region. Any organized moisture, if it happens at all, is expected back west of the Mississippi. Into the southeastern sections of the country, cooler, drier air. There will be some additional rainfall into the Carolinas, down through Georgia, wet weather in through Florida, as well as the Gulf Coast of Texas. And again, we didn't label anything into the Gulf of Mexico. Wouldn't be surprised we get one of those tropical systems that try to form up into the western Gulf at some point later in the week. Otherwise, scattered showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast into parts of Texas and the lower Mississippi Valley. Cooler, drier air and a very comfortable air mass that will continue on throughout much of the mid-Atlantic region here for the foreseeable future.
Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Pentair Hypro, a global leader in innovative spray technology for farmers for over 75 years.
There's always a crowd of people at the Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa, and this year was no exception. People visit the show from around the world and around the country, and I had the chance to talk with a Californian while I was in Boone, Mr. Walt Duflock. He's the Senior Vice President for Innovation at Western Growers in California. And Walt, thanks for talking with us today.
Great to be here.
It's been an interesting few years for California growers. You guys have faced catastrophic drought, and then it rained. Fill us in on the 2024 growing season. What are you seeing for the Western growers?
It's a great question, and it's exactly right. We're specialty crops. We're fruits, nuts, and vegetable growers, and it's been a really interesting couple of years with the shutdown, the flood, the rebuild, and now they're talking about taking away some water. So it's been both ends of the water spectrum in about 2 years, and because of that, some of the farmers are having to switch some permanent crops out. Some trees and vines coming out, some tomatoes and leafy greens coming in. That leads to its own set of challenges, but our guys are managing through it.
Well, that's good to hear. And you know, when I'm at the Farm Progress Show and I'm talking to growers in Iowa and the Corn Belt, we talk a lot about corn and soybean prices. That's a different market for you folks in California. How are market prices faring for the specialty crops that Western growers are doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. Mixed bag. I think some of the ones, the more attractive categories for the consumers tend to do well. Strawberries still hanging in there. A lot of the high-end leafy greens. Where we're really seeing some good progress is the value-added components. All those salad kits, all those pre-made kits, all those protein kits you can get in the Starbucks or the market. Kids love them, adults love them. They're flying off the shelves. So those are continuing to do well, and those are a little higher margin products. So it's good to see that space continuing to get hot.
It is. It's nice to see folks still out buying the products that make life a little bit easier when they're cooking dinner at home. Well, you're the Vice President of Innovation, and when we think about the amount of dollars that California farmers spend on their operations, on their farms, innovation has to be right up at the top of the list. What are you excited about as we get into fall?
Number one, if you're looking at labor, we need robots. And there's some robots that are getting some traction. You think about the guys that are out there doing laser weeding with carbon robotics. Think about the mechanical weeding with Stout and FarmWise. You think about the spray weeding, right? So Eco Robotics just entered the U.S. market from Europe last year. They've moved 50 machines at about $240K a pop. So love to see that, right?
And for growers who are grappling with the labor issues that you folks have in California, that's an expense worth spending if it'll keep your operation running.
100% right. And if you think about where California is going, increasingly the domestic labor force is shrinking. So the H-2A labor force is increasing. So we bring in immigrant labor. Well, people always forget that's not just a higher hourly cost, that's a housing cost and that's a transportation cost. So that pushes the need for innovation automation even faster. And just to give you the numbers, 48,000 H-2A workers in the U.S. in 2005, 378,000 last year.
Wow.
Big lift.
That is a huge lift. And I'm guessing a big chunk of those are in California.
Huge chunk. The top 4 states, I believe, are California, four of the top 5, I think, California, Arizona, Florida, Georgia. That's where our guys grow on both coasts and down to Arizona for the desert grow. And they're big H2A users all over.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned robotics. You mentioned that need for help with labor. Well, you've also talked about water being an ongoing challenge for California growers. Are there any innovations you're excited about on the irrigation front, on the water availability front?
You know, irrigation, you do see some new pipes coming out. There's more we can do with the drip. And drip probably could do a little bit more in different crops. So I think we're seeing some action with drip. Mostly evolution in that sense. You do see some software technologies that can do some remote sensing and do some things where you don't have to drive the truck out all over creation to get some data. So that's useful. Really, the second segment, I was going to come back to it. My fault for missing it the first go. The biological space. And really, we're opening up biologicals on 2 fronts. It's anything that can help solve that chemistry challenge. And you saw Dacthal got regulated pretty heavy a couple weeks back. That got our folks' attention. Just the sheer speed of it, right? It's like, no, you can't have that anymore, and you got to ship that back to the dealer as opposed to just grandfathering it out. So that was a little tricky. But all this chemistry pressure is forcing the need for our farmers to come up with something to do about pests and pathogens. And so it's either going to be biocontrols, where you got biological solutions, or fancy genetics. And so those 2 spaces I'm pretty bullish on. And if you look at where things are going in them, there's lots of venture capital flowing in, even though we've had a big slowdown on that set. And there's lots of trials going on, and there's lots of progress going on. So I think when you look at how do we change that chemistry mix, biology and genetics are going to have something to do with it.
All right, lots to watch as this technology moves forward, Walt. And of course, you're here at the Farm Progress Show, wandering around, getting ideas to take back to a big show that Western Growers has been a part of for many years, the Organic Growers Summit. Can you give us some of the details as to that event and why it's been a partnership for Western growers?
It definitely can. Organic's been a big piece of the growth in the Salinas Valley and for Western growers all over the Western region the last couple of years. OGS has been a great partnership for us. We sponsor the event, have a big VIP event there, day 1 of that program, and really it's just a way to confirm for everyone what they already know. This show is worth having. It's just organic and organic focused content because it is such a big deal. Give you the numbers, organic's up to about $60 billion as an annual category, so it's really coming a long way. That said, it's in that kind of 10 to 15% range for a lot of folks. And so obviously you'd love to see more of it because it is very popular and the consumers like it. So we put the Organic Grower Summit together with the team from OGS and basically said, how do we get a specific set of content that's organic focused that brings the conventional grower and the organic grower together to figure out when should I be making a change, how should I be making a change, who do I need to talk to make that change effectively? That's what the show does.
And because that is a big question. Those are big conversations that have to be had for these operations as they make that transition. It's great to have those resources available. OrganicGrowersSummit.com, I believe, is the website, Walt. And you're going to be there, I imagine, for both days?
Absolutely. I'm there the whole show. It's great.
All right. Well, Walt Duflock, Western Growers, thanks for talking with us this week.
Thank you.
Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Welcome back, everybody, to This Week in Agribusiness. We are still here at the Farm Progress Show, and one topic that has come up with a couple of growers over the past couple of days has been weed resistance. It is an ongoing concern for growers across this country. It is an expensive concern, and BASF has a potential solution for us. Joining me now to talk about it is Josh Putman. Josh is a technical marketing manager with BASF. We're going to talk about Certain. Josh, fill us in. How does this help this weed issue?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike, and Farm Progress. We're glad to be here. One thing about Certain herbicide, I mean, we are really excited about having Certain herbicide. So Certain herbicide is the first of its kind solid encapsulated technology. And so what that means is we have two active ingredients in a premix combination. One of those active ingredients is Kixor herbicide, or saflufenicil. The other AI is Zidua SC, or pyroxasulfone. What we did through over a decade's worth of research is we took that saflufenicil AI, encapsulated it, which gives us the residual endurance for weed control, along with the crop safety that we've been looking for to ultimately control weeds pre-emerge, but give us the crop safety into that early post timing into corn. So yeah, as Mother Nature makes it difficult for applications to get out, we've extended that application window to get us to really attack weeds before they come out of the ground, when they're at their weakest stage with only one growing point. Because let's be honest, some of these weed species, once they get out of the ground, it's off to the races and can become very difficult to control.
Let's talk about which weeds Certain is expected to hit the best. What are you targeting?
Yeah, so the main, Certain is actually labeled for 79 broadleaf and grass weed species. But the main focus, we were doing a lot of this research across the U.S., so the main ones of focus are obviously the two big pigweed species, the dioecious pigweed species being water hemp and Palmer amaranth, but we're also getting really good control of those other pesky weeds like giant ragweed, velvet leaf, those types of grass and grass species. Certainly herbicide resistance is on the rise. So this offers an additional tool, a different mode of action being a PPO inhibitor. That saflufenicil is a PPO inhibiting chemistry. We don't really rely on those HPPD chemistries because, as we know, HPPD resistance in weed species is on the rise.
Absolutely. Let's talk flexibility. That is a huge thing for growers, particularly with the high cost of everything in this growing season. How does Certain, or does Certain, provide additional flexibility for growers in a potentially tight planting window?
Yeah, we talk about the three main pillars of Certain herbicide, and the one pillar for Certain is its flexibility. And what I mean by flexibility is it's extremely friendly and compatible with liquid fertilizers. So you can apply this product with your liquid UAN or amthio early in the growing season to hold those weeds back until you can get in with your post application, but also the flexibility to apply this product over a wider range of time, but also flexibility to where if you're a grower and you want to add your own atrazine or the additional HPPD to kind of make your own formulation, ultimately you're in the controller seat at that point to add the products that you need to Certain. However, we've seen Certain by itself do a fantastic job, but certainly weed scientists will continue to tell you that you need additional AIs. The more AIs, the better.
Absolutely. Josh, is Certain out there for growers this year?
So we received EPA registration for Certain this last February, and the states followed very quickly from that, and we were able to get out a lot of demo product this spring and summer. Retailers and growers were able to touch and feel the product, and yes, Certain is currently available for purchase through BASF.
Fantastic. Josh Putman, thank you so much for filling us in on Certain this week.
Thanks for having me.
Greg Sodier is back now with his extended farm weather forecast for the nation.
Greg, you mentioned it's getting dry, but there is still some precipitation coming down next week. Give us the update. Who's going to get what?
Well, most likely, Mike, onto the precipitation chart here, you'll see it primarily into the southern plains, the Gulf Coast. We are going to keep an eye on some lowering pressures in the Gulf. If something comes out of the Atlantic Basin, it will be there with very minimal Saharan dust that kind of stabilizes the atmosphere in the Atlantic. Winds get strong up aloft. You can't get tropical systems to go, and off to the races you go. But in any event, there may be something developing down there scattered across the west southwestern states, not much for the northern and central plains. Dry time for the Corn Belt, maybe a shower in spots through the Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic regions. So the dry get drier, Mike, and the wetter, well, probably a little wetter, and the rains will be welcome down there through cotton country in the southern plains.
Let's talk temperatures, Greg. As you look ahead to the week of September 9th, we could see some combines running. What do you expect to see?
Boy, I know you're not supposed to scout from the fields. I did it. There may be stuff that's ready to go. At least the beans into parts of Illinois are turning color already. Here you go with this lobe of cool air still lingering through the middle part of the month of September. No worries about growing degree day units or early frost, maybe up through the northern lakes region where they grow rocks. Northeast and New England, a little on the cooler side. Southeastern part of the country is warm. Across the western reaches as well. Note that little troughiness, and we think there will be something not only coming out of the Gulf, but out of the Atlantic. So where things are drying out and dry, they stay that way. Where they are wet, they stay that way. Texas, the southeastern states up the eastern seaboard. So again, as you pointed out, maybe it's an early start to the harvest season.
The week of September 16th, it's mid-September, Greg. Does that heat build or is it still fading?
It's, we're into fall here on the 22nd. We'll start meteorological autumn the 1st of September, and there's anything but a fall look and feel to the weather maps and charts. An eastward expansion on some of that heat into parts of the Mississippi Valley. Summertime heat still back west of the Missouri and the southwestern reaches of the country. Last of that lobe of cool air for the northeast of New England. Everyone else about normal in the temperature department. And this is good news as long as it doesn't come all at once with tropical systems lurking in the Gulf, the southwest Atlantic, up the eastern seaboard, and again, opportunities to roll the combines. They're already doing so in Ohio, unfortunately, across the Corn Belt. Spring grain areas into the Pacific Northwest look to be high and dry.
All right, take us to the end of September, Greg. What happens with that heat?
Hot weather. It's, we're almost in October, and I wouldn't be surprised you could label this into parts of early to mid-October. We've got warmth. La Nina is coming down the pike here. It's going to be a sudden shift. I think we won't go to fall, go right to winter, but that's a later discussion. Warmth across the heartland into the southeastern Canadian prairie, a little cooling into the Pacific Northwest, normal temperatures over the east and southeastern reaches of the country. Here's the precip. Combines are rolling through the heartland, wet weather northeast, south, and in the Pacific Northwest.
Our Farm Progress Roundup is sponsored by Brandt Industries. Lead the field with Brandt's lineup of heavy-duty grain carts and make the most of your harvest season. Visit brandt.ca for more. Well, folks, Farm Progress Show has been a tremendous success. Joining me for the Farm Progress Update is Matt Caniglio. Matt serves as the Senior Director for Strategic Accounts at Farm Progress. And Matt, thanks for talking with us.
Lovely to be here.
I understand you get to work with agribusinesses across the country. There have got to be some trends that you're hearing from your clients. What are some of the big ones here in 2024, Matt?
Well, I think the Farm Progress Show always brings out the key word of innovation. Every year there's something new, whether that's in machinery, whether that's in inputs, whether in seed technology. Ag companies continue to innovate. So despite commodity prices or wherever the market is headed, these guys are on a level playing field, pushing forward, bringing us new and latest and greatest technology.
And there were so many examples of that on display at the show this year. Matt, the other trend that I'm picking up on, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot as well, it's sustainability. That seems to be on everybody's mind this year. Are you encountering that with your clients?
It is, and I think it's a trend that's been slowly evolving. But I think it's getting to almost a wave and a crest now. People are understanding how important it is, and I think you're going to see more and more of that as we go forward.
So it's not like a crest and then we're done with sustainability. It's just becoming a fact of life, it seems as though, for farmers and these ag companies.
Yes, it will.
Managing against inflation. Mr. Caniglio, we've got prices on the rise. Are you hearing companies work to try to keep prices down, at least on the end for farmers?
They're doing their very best, just like everybody's trying to do in this current economic situation. I think it's just causing everybody to be a little bit more strategic, determine how you're going to get your plan together. The terms I'm hearing from a lot of companies are get planning earlier, so you are on top of things. So I think that's helping everybody be a little bit sharper.
Absolutely. They're looking at this downturn. They recognize that this is coming, and we're forced to be proactive, it sounds like.
And this is not the first time this has happened, right? We don't like to talk about downturns. It happens. We're going to come out of this downturn, and we'll have an upturn again. So while we weather this storm, be smart, be strategic, and really just be a good partner.
Right, and continue to find the upside. You know, what amazes me, Matt, when I'm at the Farm Progress Show, even when things are bad, and they're not bad this year, price-wise, but there are always reasons to be optimistic, aren't there?
Well, you won't find a more optimistic bunch than the farmers and ranchers across the United States of America. So I definitely think that has always been a theme, but even it shines a little bit more in years where maybe it's not as bright.
Absolutely. So Farm Progress Show 2024 coming to an end. Matt, was it successful?
Absolutely. We've enjoyed our time here. We look forward to next year, as we always do, and moving forward, but what a great 3 days here.
It was indeed. Matt Caniglio, Senior Director, Strategic Accounts at Farm Progress. Thanks for talking with us this week.
Thank you, Mike.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, where we spotlight another great American farm tractor. At Max's Tractor Shed this weekend, it's a tractor owned by a gentleman we've known for quite some time. He's proud of his Minneapolis Moline. Just had it restored recently. Max's Tractor Shed is brought to you by Mystic Lubricants. Mystic Lubricants are made to make it last. Well, Minneapolis Moline made many mighty fine tractors over the years. I think there was a ZA and a ZB, maybe a ZTU. This Z is owned by John White Jr., a longtime Farm Bureau leader in northern Illinois. For a period of about a decade, John was president of the Illinois Farm Bureau, and about a year ago, he decided to have his Minneapolis Moline restored by John Bruns. And one thing that had to be restored was the dealer decal. You can't just buy those off the shelf. John Bruns had that dealer decal made for John White Jr.'s Minneapolis Moline Z. It came out of a dealership at Batavia, Illinois. Well, our friend Mark Stock is here every weekend to fill us in on what's happening at Big Iron Auctions. He looks to the week ahead and what will be selling on Big Iron.
Well, hello, Max. What a great week at Boone, Iowa. We want to thank Farm Progress for putting on a wonderful farm show. And of course, we want to thank all of the bidders, the buyers, and the sellers that stopped by the Big Iron and Sullivan Auctioneers booth. And now we've got Labor Day weekend, so we hope everybody has the safest and fun Labor Day weekend. And then we're back to work again next week, folks, on September the 4th. Mitchell Equipment, LLC, Atkinson, Nebraska, and Humphrey, Nebraska. This Case IH dealership will be selling some late model Case IH combines, like 2 Case IH 8250 series combines, Case IH 7240 track machine. They'll also have some Case IH Steiger 450 quad track tractors, Case IH 500T precision disc air seeder, numerous corn heads and draper heads. Also on September the 4th, we'll be conducting the benefit auction for the South Dakota FFA Foundation. And on September the 5th, Hiawatha Implement will sell 119 items. Combines, high-speed discs, disc mowers, grain carts, premium round balers, corn heads, draper heads, field cultivators. Max, we have a large amount of quality equipment selling in September. Have a great Labor Day weekend, everyone.
Our FFA Chapter Tribute is brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. Well, we were at the Farm Progress Show this past week, and one of the great things about the event is the number of young people on the grounds. Had the chance to catch up with a couple FFAers and found one brave enough to join us on TV. Caleb Gauss, Hamilton, Illinois FFA, thanks for taking the time to talk with us.
You're welcome.
So I understand this is your first year in FFA, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
What was it that made you want to join?
Mostly just because it's part of one of my classes. Also because that class is dual credit, so.
Which class is that?
Intro to Agriculture.
Intro to Agriculture. So it's dual credit. You're getting a
Yeah.
little extra bonus towards graduating, but what else would be a reason you'd want to take that class?
Well, I just think that, I like doing things with my hands. I want to learn how to do things, and I think Intro to Ag would be, a good class to just be a starter to welding and auto mechanics, all that stuff that, comes after.
Practical stuff you're going to use throughout your life. Now, Caleb, did you grow up on a farm or from a farm family?
No, I've never really been on a farm, actually. I've been on one.
Okay, and you'll probably get the chance to see more if you're in FFA.
I'm pretty sure I will.
So far, have you had a chance to meet the other folks in your FFA chapter as of yet?
Yeah, we've had a meeting so far, actually.
Good group? You guys bond well?
Yeah.
How big a town is Hamilton?
It's not that big. It's only about 3,000 people, I want to say.
All right, so it's a nice community with good folks in the FFA.
I would say so.
Do you think they ever might get you into showing livestock or doing some of the competitions in FFA?
I think they will, yeah.
What about that seems appealing?
Really just the whole, it's outside of school things. You know, you get to do physical things in school instead of just learning and sitting there all day.
I love that. It's outside of school things. It's learning to do something new. Caleb, that is a great way to put it for FFA. It's teaching you skills you can't get in a classroom necessarily.
Exactly.
Well, shoot, we wish you the absolute best as you begin your FFA career. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and good luck.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Caleb Gauss, Hamilton, Illinois, fresh member of the FFA.
And that's right.
Colby Egg Tech is brought to you by PTX, a new brand from AGCO that includes precision ag technologies from Precision Planting and PTX Trimble. Well, Chad Colby joins me in person today, caught up with him, found him out amongst the autonomous experience here at the Farm Progress Show. Chad, lot to see this year.
You know what, there's so much new technology that gets debuted at the Farm Progress Show, and you know, you and I were talking off air, is autonomy is a thing now, where it really wasn't. You know, I remember growing up, Mike, it was a big deal to get our first cell phone.
Yeah.
And then tractors with front wheel assist, and dare I say the word, you know, tractors with auto steer. Well, the next phase of that path is truly connectivity with autonomy, and it's here in a big way at the Farm Progress Show this year.
What were some of the most impressive examples of autonomy that you saw this year on the grounds?
Well, I think everybody's got a great offering. You know, you and I were talking, I think you got a lot of decisions when you buy equipment today, even on the used market. And if you're looking at combines, do you spend the extra money? Well, guess what? Today, if you're buying a new one, that stuff's included. But you know what? A few years ago, it was an expensive option to buy the autonomy that makes that combine, you know, adjust on the go, if you should say. But it's exciting to see. I mean, my goodness, look at how far drones have come now with sprayer drones. Listen, that's all autonomy. No one is flying those drones. They're putting their route on the map, they're pushing a button, it does its thing now. Of course, a pilot is there looking over that, but it wouldn't be possible without that technology.
Absolutely, and now we're bringing that same kind of technology to sprayers, to planters, to grain carts. All of it's here, and it's not theoretical. Chad, as I understand, they're out in the field today.
I talked to a farmer friend of mine from Texas at the show, and that recreational tillage is happening without somebody in the cab right now in Texas on his farm, and this is their first fall with it, and he said it's been flawless.
He's at the show, and his tractor's at home doing tillage.
Yes.
We are living in the future, Chad Colby. Would you ever expect, when you started talking about technology in agriculture, there would be a farmer doing tillage 1,200 miles away from where he's at?
Well, again, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's hard to keep up with technology, but on the same token, it's going to go with or without you, and there's a lot of great applications for it. You just got to look for that place to make sure you get a good return on your investment.
That's what it's all about, finding out how you can make that money work for you. Chad Colby, we look forward to more updates on technology as this year goes on.
Absolutely, Mike.
Mike and I, every year after the Farm Progress Show, have the feeling that we've got a good grasp of what's going on with our farmers across the country and to some extent around the world. And part of that comes also from talking to exhibitors. Friends like Tony Orlando, president of Firestone Ag. You've had a lot of feedback, I know, over the course of this show too, haven't you?
Max, it's great to see you. Good to be here at Farm Progress again. It's a warm day, but it's a great day to be here, you know, in the fields, talking to farmers, talking to other exhibitors, and there's just a buzz about being back here in Boone.
How are farmer needs for tires changing? What are you hearing from the growers about what they want from you?
Certainly it's a tough environment right now. Farmers are looking to get the maximum return on all their investment. They are looking to get the most out of the field, minimizing compaction, also trying to extend tire life as well. And this is something that we are stepping into more firmly within Firestone Ag.
One thing we talked about is the fact that your tires must perform not only in the field, but there's that transit time between fields and an operation as well.
No, good question, Max. So one of the trends that we really are starting to see is farms are becoming bigger and greater scale. So 2 small farms are becoming 1 larger farm. And as a result, you're seeing more roading of equipment moving from farm to farm. And one of the things that we're so proud to introduce here at Farm Progress is our new Bridgestone brand product. We've got 3 separate lines coming out, including 27 new VX tractor tires. They're all focused on tractor, and this has an extended tire life of 45% versus the leading competitive brand. So we're doing what we can to help the farmer get more out of their tire investment.
45% more life.
That's right, with tire life, exactly right, more tread life.
I gather your folks are researching all the time. They're looking ahead, trying to anticipate needs and to deliver that product that growers will need going forward.
Yeah, we got the industry-owned testing center out of Columbiana, Ohio, which is really the birthplace of Harvey Firestone. We're proud to have the testing center there. We also have an extensive number of engineers working out of Columbiana as well as Akron, Ohio, bringing many new products to the market, including what we're launching here at Farm Progress.
Does it help you in the agriculture sector to have such a strong connection with non-farm tires?
Certainly, we recognize, a farm itself not only needs agriculture tires, that they also need construction tires, truck tires, passenger car tires, and this is something that Bridgestone and Firestone offer across all of our portfolio, and farmers just love Firestone Ag in particular.
Farmers need to be able to go in those seasons. They can't afford any downtime.
They can't afford downtime.
You need to keep them rolling, don't you, Tony?
Too expensive. So this is why we have a full portfolio, not only of agriculture tires, but truck, construction, and passenger car tires as well.
Always great to see you, sir, and I'm always impressed with the team that you folks have assembled. I've visited with many of them over the years. There's quite a wealth of knowledge there, offering advice to farmers as well.
We have really good teammates, not only in Des Moines, but also in our Nashville headquarters and Akron, throughout the U.S., and we're quite proud of the team that we've brought here to Farm Progress.
Great to see you again. Take care.
Always good to see you, Max. Thank you.
Tony Orlando, president of Firestone Ag, joining us here at the Farm Progress Show. And we've appreciated so many visits that we've had. We look forward to visiting with you again next weekend on This Week in Agribusiness. This Week in Agribusiness has been brought to you by Case IH. Solutions for every challenge. Equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by 22 Creative Group and has been a presentation of Farm Progress Broadcast. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.